Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of Intercultural Insiders. My name is John McGraw, and I help expats and newcomers feel confident in their new country in less time and pain. I am the founder of Hyaku Coaching, which is dedicated to helping you create your pathway to success in a new culture. The purpose of Intercultural Insiders is to share the stories of people with intercultural experiences. So if you're feeling isolated or lost, you can hear something from the guests' experiences that could help you, even if it's just a reminder that you're not alone. So I'm excited today to share the first part of my interview with Johann Mehta. He's got a lot to share. So if you are a newcomer or anyone who's looking to find success in career or other parts of your life, he's a great person to talk to. But before we get into that, I've got another announcement to make, which is about my course, the new course that enrollment has started for my live cohort based online course, Newcomers Build Your Thriving Career in Canada. So, if you are a newcomer who is trying to advance your career and find opportunities, learning how to network and advocate for yourself in Canada can be overwhelming. Knowing how to reach out and say the right things to your manager or a connection to build a relationship isn't easy at first. It can be daunting when you're doing it alone. So, in this course, you get hands on experience on how to network with contacts in your workplace and the Canadian job market. You will practice techniques to show your value to your manager, and you will have the opportunity with peers to learn together. You will walk away with strategies and a networking framework that you can use to build relationships and get more opportunities. And best of all, you will have lifetime access to a community of your peers who you can grow with even after the course is finished. So, to review the details, schedule, and fees, I encourage you to visit the course page, which you can find the QR code here, right beneath my chin, and also the link that is in the comments section. And another note, if you enroll by February 28th, you can get a 15% discount by using the code EARLYBIRD15. So there is extra incentive to enroll early. And now, on to our guest for today, Johann Mehta. Johann is an HR and change management professional and career coach who currently works at Deloitte Canada and has previously worked for Walmart, Accenture, the Royal Bank of Canada, and the University of Toronto. And he is an industrial organizational psychologist with expertise in strategic HR, organizational development, and talent management change, management, and business transformation. And he has done a lot and continues to do a lot to help his clients and others to find success in their lives, how they define it. In today's part, which is the first part of a two-part interview, he talks about moving to Canada, where he developed his interest in culture and psychology and the experiences he had from coming to Canada, the importance of developing a deep understanding of yourself when finding a career, and also developing soft skills to advance your career. So, as is usual with the interviews that we have here, this conversation with Johann is pre recorded, but Johann is going to be live in the chat. And I believe he's live in the chat right now. So feel free to comment and ask questions in the chat during the interview. It really helps to make this a more engaging experience. So you don't have to wait until the end of the interview to ask your questions. Please feel free to do it during it to make this a more lively experience. And now, without further wait, let's get to part one of the interview with Johann. Johann, can you please go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely, John. First and foremost, thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I've seen your previous episodes. I'm a big fan of yours. You're doing such an amazing job interviewing so many great people. Thank you for having me again. My name is Johann. I'm a certified HR change management and career coach, currently working for Deloitte Canada. My previous roles have been with consulting firms, including Accenture, and then I had a stint in between with Walmart as well. I am an IO psychologist, industrial organizational psychologist, with a focus on HR, organizational development, talent management, and change management work. What really fascinates me, John, is human behavior in terms of understanding people, investing in people, and truly unlocking their potential to maximize their productivity and performance at work. I'm also a career coach, so I also help a lot of students, a lot of young professionals gain clarity on their careers, as well as setting them up for success with jobs at good companies, reputable companies in Canada. On a personal side, I am a dad of two. I have two daughters aged 5 and 8, Myra and Malia. So I spend a lot of time with them, just goofing around and trying my best to be a good parent. That's a little bit about myself.
You've certainly got a rich life, and I love your focus on enhancing people, as you said, and helping them to reach their full potential, which of course is what coaching is all about. So I'd like to get started off by going back into your history and talking a little bit about how you got started and your earliest experiences and contact with other cultures.
Yeah, absolutely, John. So I was actually born in Mumbai. It used to be called back in the day Bombay in India. So I'm Indian by background. I was there until the age of 5 before our family moved to Dubai in the Middle East. I spent about 10 years in Dubai, so did a big part of my schooling over there in the Middle East before moving to Canada. We moved to Canada 23 years ago, and just that upbringing and going between countries, experiencing obviously different cultures and people has given me that understanding of people of diverse backgrounds, ethnicity, languages. And this is what makes me naturally interested and inclined towards serving people multiculturally. So not just a specific group of people. So that's when it all started, the interest for people and culture. And then I pursued my undergraduate degree in psychology because, again, I had a very deep interest in human psychology, understanding human behavior. Went on to do my master's in industrial organizational psychology, which is basically psychology of the people at the workplace. So why do people behave in certain ways? How do you motivate people? How do you empower them? What works? What type of motivations work for certain people? What doesn't work for others? And then most recently, this was just about 3 years ago, I started getting an interest around careers and helping people navigate their career journeys, helping them identify any gaps they may have in terms of their skills, their experience, and making the whole job search process a lot more easier and streamlined.
And I imagine that your background in organizational psychology really gives you an insight into helping people to maximize their careers. What would you say is something that's really beneficial to people looking to enhance their careers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the biggest thing is for people to begin the journey by understanding themselves. A lot of times, just because of the nature of our world, people go from one to the other. You would finish school, you would then look for jobs and just pick anything that comes along your way. What I try to do with people is really take a step back and help them gain more self-awareness. So do a little more of deeper introspection on who they are as people. What is it that they're good at? What is it that they're passionate about? What is it that they value? What is most important to them at that juncture in their life? And each of us, we come with different gifts, different skills and strengths. We also have different interests. And depending on where you are in your life, you would value different things. For some people, it is all about getting into a good, big, reputable firm. For some people, it is the money aspect of it that is very important. For some people, it's really that work-life balance between their work and family and kids. So unless you have a holistic understanding of what's important to you. Typically, we make decisions in haste. And then a few months into it, we say, this was actually not the right thing. Even though I'm making the money, I just don't feel the satisfaction. I don't feel the impact that I was hoping to make. So that's step one, is really getting clear on who you are, what is it that you want and why you want, before we then move on to talking about careers and what makes sense for them.
I really like what you're saying about a person getting that holistic view of themselves and what it is that really drives them and what they really want. And completely agree with the idea that sometimes it's easy to make decisions in haste, focusing on what seems important at the moment without really getting a deep understanding of yourself. And I think that applies whether you're adapting to a culture or finding the right career. That really resonates with me. I imagine that you're working with people from all different situations and walks of life. What would you say for people who are coming from outside of Canada and looking to find work here?
That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that as well, especially for people who are new to the country, whether they are students, international students coming over here, or just immigrants who are moving here with their family, having worked back home. Being in a new environment, a new country, a new culture is not easy. First and foremost, it requires so much courage to leave back a comfortable life for yourself, for your families back home, and moving into a country that you don't really know much about. You could have read a lot about it, but until you come here and experience the people, the culture, the temperatures that we have, that's when, I guess, the rubber hits the road and you get a realistic preview of Canada. So for me, it's really helping them get over that first and making sure their mindset is in the right place before we move into discussions around the job. Now, obviously, the job search is a big component because people's livelihoods are dependent on their jobs, and more often than not, people come here for education. But then obviously the goal is to get a good job in Canada and settle down over here. What I try to tell them is you will meet different people, and if you meet 20 people, they will give you 20 different ideas and perspectives. So always keep those perspectives at the back of your mind while thinking about what is right for you, because somebody else's journey may not be applicable to you. They may have come with other family over here that's supporting them, or they may have a financial situation that's different from you. So always think about what is unique about your situation before you take advice. I also recommend connecting as much as you can with the right people who have had that journey similar to you, who can then guide you based on first-hand experience. A lot of the new immigrants get trapped by people who try to misuse their naiveness or their lack of knowledge. So be very careful in terms of who you're connecting with, who you're getting advice from, and really think about things from your perspective and what's best for you and your family.
Very good point. Not only because, as you mentioned, there are those who will take advantage, but even from the perspective of well-meaning people, as you said, even if they have the same career, some of the circumstances could be different, and what's right for them may not be right for you. And I think this is also the value of working with a coach, because their focus is on helping you to determine what's right for you. Going back to your experiences and coming to Canada at a relatively young age, there's the thought that when you're younger, it's easier to adjust to a different culture. I'm curious about your experiences with that. What were your thoughts?
It depends on you as a person and also who you come with, the support system you have. I came along with my parents. I had a place to stay. I didn't have to worry about rent, mortgage, any of that, because my parents took care of that. So all I had to do really is to study well, do good in school, hopefully get admission into university, and then take myself up from there, which I was able to do, fortunately, with a lot of support from family. Now, a lot of the times people come by themselves without parents, without siblings. And it's challenging because you don't know, is the place where you're living at, is that the best place for you to stay? Are you paying the appropriate amount of rent? Did you pick the right school? Are you focusing on the right major in your school? And there's so many things going on for you, all the way from settling in to relationships, to finances, to careers. where it can be very intimidating. In my case, thankfully, I had my family and my support system in place. But for those who are coming by themselves, I would recommend taking advantage of resources, of agencies that Canada has. There's a lot of settlement agencies that help you at no cost to really get a bank account quickly, to get your driver's license done, to get your SIM card done. And there are also a lot of agencies such as Access and Triac that will help you with your job and your career as well. So I would say take advantage of that. There's a lot of resources out there at your disposal. Those kind of things you need to be very proactive in seeking, because no one's really going to come to you and give you things. So you need to find the time to set yourself and your well-being and keep that as your priority.
You mentioned earlier building that self-awareness and getting that understanding of what's right for you. Maybe there are some common mistakes that newcomers make when they're first trying to find work. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll touch a bit upon the whole clarity and the self-awareness piece from a career perspective. So typically, an exercise that I have people who I support go through in terms of gaining that clarity is a 3-step process. Step 1 is really identifying for you what are the things that make you come alive. And when I say make you come alive, these are things that really energize you. These are things that ignite your motivations, your passions. So really doing an introspection on what is it that piques your curiosity. If you knew that you couldn't fail, you would do this. If you knew that money was not an issue and you could do whatever you wanted, what are some of those things that you would like and love to do that truly bring you joy and energize you? So that's a look at your passions and your interests. And there are many assessments out there as well. If you just do a Google search for career interest assessments, the second step in the process is looking at what you're great at and what you do best. So each of us are born with certain talents, whether you are good with numbers since you were a child, or you're very good with creativity, or you're very good with artistic abilities. We all come with some degree of natural talent. And then we also, over time, through education, through experience, we've learned certain skills. And these are what I call hard skills. So these are skills that you've been taught and you've gained through experiences, through courses and certifications. So things like strategic planning, using specific software, knowing certain programming languages. And then you also have softer skills, which is basically human skills like leadership, communications, critical thinking, problem solving. So do an introspection on what are those talents, hard and soft skills that you are good at and that you would like to use. So that's step 2. And step 3 is an exercise on values. So this is thinking about what is most important to you right now. Like what matters to you the most? I alluded to this a little earlier. Is it the type of organization? Is it the organization's mission and vision? A lot of people, they want to specifically work for a nonprofit because that aligns with their values. Or some people who are more financially driven, they need to be making X amount of money. Or some people who need that flexibility, right? They look for more of those kind of cultures. And then when you look at all of these 3 steps together, which is your interest, your talents and skills, and your values, you get a pretty good understanding of who you are and what's important to you. And then it's a matter of looking at what career paths are aligned. And then, of course, once you dig into a career path, there are many different kinds of jobs that may be a good fit for you, whether that is people-serving jobs like teaching, coaching, mentorship, training, or they're more technical focused jobs. So this could be engineering, this could be maybe operations, maybe a little more technical in terms of maybe machine learning these days, AI, programming, software development. So you get a good idea on possible career fields. And then the final step is really just talking to people. There is no right or wrong options over here. When I decided to become a career coach, the first thing I did was talk to other career coaches out there and get a feel for what does your day-to-day look like? Who do you work with? How do you help them? So then it gives me a good idea for what I can expect if I decide to choose that profession. And if that aligns with my interests, my values. So that's the recommendation in terms of getting clear with your career.
You mentioned soft skills, and that reminds me of the LinkedIn report from a few years ago saying that recruiters would consider soft skills just as if not more important than hard skills?
Having recruited people and having been a hiring manager, the first thing we look for obviously is qualification. So is the person qualified to perform the job? Especially for the technical roles, you need that person to have done that before or used that skill before. But after that, it's really a matter of who demonstrates the best soft skills that are essential for that job. Typically, the biggest and the most important soft skill is your communication abilities, followed by interpersonal skills, right? So communication just doesn't mean talking. It means verbal communication, written communication, being able to listen with intention, being able to deliver your messages clearly, concisely is very important, especially for a lot of the occupations over here where you are constantly emailing people, messaging people, dealing with clients, dealing with customers. The employer wants to have that confidence that this person will be able to articulate themselves. And there are many other soft skills depending on the role. Some roles require a good degree of creativity. So this is thinking outside the box, challenging the status quo, coming up with different ideas that they may not have thought through before. Another one is problem solving. When you're faced with a problem, what is your approach? Do you do enough research? Do you gather enough information? Do you talk to people, get their perspectives before you present an approach? But you're absolutely right. Soft skills are extremely important. A lot of the newcomers, the immigrants, the international students, they come with amazing technical skills. However, over here, employers find the gap that's missing for them is around the soft skills. The good news, though, is there are many tools, resources, and support systems out there that can help you be a more effective speaker, that can help you be more effective with decision-making or problem-solving. But again, it's up to you to make that effort and proactively seek that help.
Many people may have the skills to get hired, but even if they get hired, they may not advance because they haven't developed the soft skills, or in some extreme cases, they may even be let go simply because they haven't developed the ability to communicate. And it's something that anyone can develop. It just takes time. And again, familiarity with the culture in terms of what's considered the best way or the appropriate way to communicate. And on another point, when you have that familiarity, then you also know where you can sometimes break it to get your point across. Having that outside perspective of coming from another culture, you could see things that someone who has born and raised here may not be aware of, and bringing that diversity and helping your company grow in other ways. In terms of developing those soft skills, what would be some places that someone could start?
There are many different options people can look at in terms of how they develop their skills. The one thing I would say before you go external is to just look within the organization itself. See if you can find someone who's had a similar journey to yourself. So maybe somebody who also joined that company recently in a similar position, maybe from a similar country as well. And they made the time and took the steps to develop themselves in those soft skills, and then use that person as your mentor to be able to guide you through that as well. If you're not able to find someone, let's say it's a smaller company, you're not able to find someone, then look in your outer network. So people in your school, professors, teachers, and look for some mentorship over there. There are many kind of groups and organizations, for example, Toastmasters, where you can join and you can again connect with like-minded people who will help you improve without judging you. So it's a very safe environment where at work it can be tricky if you try to experiment too much. But this is like-minded people like yourself who are also looking to build that exact same skill set. You give them feedback, they give you feedback, and everybody grows together. So that's another option. And then, of course, if you have the finances, hiring a coach to see if that coach can really help you step up your game. And I know, John, you do a lot of work around this, helping people having a good grasp on the culture, having a good grasp on the organization and the culture within the organization, and really making them more confident in terms of how they have these discussions, doing it in a way that is respectful, but also you're not shy to express yourself. You're assertive without being aggressive, to get your point across, to get what you would really like that's in the best interest of yourself and your team. So get someone who is qualified to be able to coach you to do that is another option.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. And as I'm sure you're well aware from your experience in Canada in particular, I think it's a really fine line, finding that balance between being polite and being assertive to get what it is that you want, and having that self-awareness about how you may be different and how you can adjust without necessarily completely changing yourself, but just knowing how to adapt is an extremely valuable skill. And once you develop it, it's going to serve you in many places, more than just having a couple of tips that might be specific to Canada. All right. And that was part one of the interview with Johann. And I mentioned in the chat earlier, I discovered as the recording was going on that for some reason I was not able to share any of the comments on the screen, even though there were a number of comments that happened in the LinkedIn live chat. So I apologize for that, for people who are looking forward, because I think that's one of the things that people look forward to with the live chat. So I'm going to read a couple of the comments, even though I can't show them on the screen because of the technical issues. So from Liliana, commenting, such an interesting background and experiences, Johann. And Yosef Scully, I apologize if I haven't pronounced the name correctly, your name. Well said, Johann Mehta. Self-understanding, self-knowledge, and self-awareness is the most important first step, which I agree with completely. Without self-awareness, progress is difficult, if not impossible, as you need to be able to measure yourself where you're at and where you're going in the future, based on where you were. So having that awareness is essential for that. So I'm not sure if Johann is in the chat today or was able to join us today. But if you have, we have a couple of minutes left. So for those of you who are watching, I'd like to hear from you, and please feel free to comment on LinkedIn or YouTube if you're watching there in the chat. I can't show your comments on the screen, but I can certainly read them. So please feel free to type them there. I would say that one of the things that really stood out for me was that, again, that importance of soft skills, or as I've heard it termed now, 21st century skills, that importance of networking, of having an awareness around the culture and being able to advocate for yourself. All of these are essential skills in the 21st century and in Canada, because having those hard skills and the certifications alone often won't be enough in the Canadian market, even if they were enough in your home country. And this is what I found from having conversations with clients and with other newcomers to Canada. So I would really encourage you to do that. Take the time to develop those soft skills. And again, I want to mention the course that I have, that is in the enrollment is going on now, that I've started for newcomers to develop your networking skills. Again, the link is here, so you can use the QR code to find out more about that. And again, there's a 15% discount that is available until February 28th if you use the code listed here, early bird 15. So that is another place to help develop your networking skills. And we're coming up to the end of our show today, but of course, this was part one. So part two with Johann is coming up next week on Wednesday, March the 1st, at 12 p.m., the usual time. And in that second part, Johann talks about his need for serving people and where that came from. He also takes a bit of a turn playing the interviewer and asks me questions about myself and how I got started and what motivates me. And also, we go back to Johann and discuss his plans for 2023. So hopefully, Johann will be able to join us for then. And the technical issue that happened today will be resolved, and I'll be able to show all of your comments on the screen. So in the meantime, keep navigating your way between cultures towards your goals. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.